Welcome to Bound by Books, a podcast of 5 authors across the genre talking about that one thing we are all bound by, books. I'm one of your hosts, writer Danielle Bannister, and today I am joined by, drumroll please,
Marianne, Morea. How are you today? Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes, Happy New Year. I am well. I am awake and functioning, so that is a good start to the new year, I think.
Coffee.
Yeah, I have some tea.
Coffee.
So did you stay up for the new year, or did you crash at like 9:30 like I did?
No, I was up until 3 a.m.
Were you really?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Not because of the new year. I mean, we
Oh.
watched the ball. We watched the ball drop, and
Right,
everybody
right.
hugged and kissed, and well, everybody, my immediate family,
Right.
and then they were all watching the performers, and because I'm old, I don't know anybody anymore that's on these shows. I mean, I can't even pronounce half of their names, so I went upstairs and I ended up watching Being the Ricardos, so with
There you
Nicole
go.
Kidman,
Yeah.
and it was actually really good.
This is what I've heard.
It was a good
It was
movie.
good.
Yeah.
It was good.
And I
Yeah.
like the fact that they didn't look exactly like them.
Yeah.
That would have freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Just
anyway,
close enough.
just
Yeah.
close enough. But it gave a lot of insight into the background.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hearing. So
Yeah.
it's on my list of things that I need to catch up on. So on our topic today, it's one that I think that you and I have probably the most practice doing in our little group, and that's writing multiple projects at one time. And when I tell people this, that I write multiple projects at one time, the questions are one of two things. Why would you do that to yourself?
You sound like Ricky Ricardo. Why?
How do you do that without your brain exploding? Like I know my how and why. We can get into that as well, but I'm curious to know what is your why and how, because I'm sure they're probably the same answer.
Well,
or maybe not. Maybe they're not.
My why and two things primarily, besides the more businessy things that we will talk about later, is hostage deadlines. And
I like that term. That term. What do you mean by hostage deadline, though?
Hostage deadlines, meaning that 6 months ago you decide, oh, I'm going to put something up for a pre-order, and you've gotten a great idea and you're on fire with it, and you outline and you've got the basic plot and the characters, and you're talking about it with your author friends, and you're all excited about it, and then you get hit with procrastination-itis because you're futzing around on social media and you're taking this class and that class, and then all of us,
life happens.
Life happens. Yes.
Sometimes things happen in life that throw plans out the window.
Yes. I mean, I had that happen myself. I mean, life, the fate decides to mess with you. They do. Yes. And you know what? Like having your laptop crash, making your hard drive unrecognizable, and unrecoverable. So my advice to any aspiring authors out there is back up yo shit.
In multiple places.
Every day.
A drive, get an external drive, get a cloud, put them in lots of places, and don't put it off. Backup.
Don't put off buying more storage like I did, because if you tempt fate one too many times, she will shiv you in the ribs. Yes. Trust me, I have the scars to prove it, because that's what happened over the summer for me, and I lost almost everything, including the last 3 months of my work with a book and I had to go and beg, borrow, and steal it from people, editors, cover artists, even, like you guys, in our little Mod Pod group here that had read stuff for me, so that's hostage deadlines is basically my own reason why, because it's usually something that I have put off for too long. And now all of a sudden, not only do I have a pre-order, but I have another book that has to get out as well that I was working on. And so it becomes a juggling session, but there's other reasons for it too.
Sure.
There's other. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to say, because my why is not that reason. It's not that sort of deadline that I go, oh crap, I have to write this, because as you know, I'm the planner.
Yes, you
So
are.
those sort of deadlines don't typically sneak up on me because I've
Nope.
planned for them. So the why of why I write multiple topics is sort of that business end of it. It's, if I want to write and release more than one book in a year, I have to be able to work on multiple projects at once, or else the timing just doesn't work. If you're not bringing projects forward, you can't release them in a year. If you're only starting with one book and writing until you finish, that process could take
6 months.
a year. I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on how fast you write. I know some people can turn it around much faster than that. I can't. It takes me probably about 6 months to get a start to finish. So if I want to produce 4 books in a year, I can't just write one, because there aren't that many months in a year. So I have to be writing multiple projects at once.
No, I agree. And, for me, it's become part of, I mean, this 2021, as if anybody who is on TikTok may see our little plug for our podcast. 2021 sucked, according to Danielle.
It did.
And it did in some ways, and it didn't in others.
Right.
But in terms of writing for me and everything that went along with it, it sucked. I agree. I agreed wholeheartedly. In fact, when you said that, I was like, yes, So writing resolutions for this year are part of it. I don't make personal resolutions like going on a diet and trying to lose 50 pounds. I mean, it's like, hey, curvy girl, trying to do what I have to do to stay healthy. Yes. But not trying to be a size 2. I'm not getting on that merry-go-round anymore. Too many years of my life wasted. But writing resolutions, yes. And one of the writing resolutions I have is to decide. I mean, we discussed this when we have our weekly meeting, is that I want to write 6 books this year. Unfortunately, 2 of those 6 books are leftovers from, being shivved in the ribs by fate, when my laptop crashed, and then everything else that went along with it, all the things that I had going on in my life, and thank God they're all coming to a close now. This first week of January, I'm in my new office. Of course, this is not my new office. This is a library.
So you've got a much bigger office this time around.
This is a library. Gonna have somebody pop in behind me, go shh, because I'm talking. Anyway, but no, it's just a picture. But anyway, so that's my plan, and I know that you have a huge plan for the year. So how do you come?
And that I think that merges us nicely into the how you can realistically write multiple projects for the year, because it can make your brain like explode a little bit when you try to think about it. But really, the only way that I have been able to figure out, and again, every writer is different, and find your path and follow it. But what works for me is sort of, this is the planner in me, I'm sorry, but I will take a sort of a monthly plan. I'll put out 12 months in a year, and I'll look at those months and I'll go, okay, what months can I not release a book in the next year coming up, or whatever year that I'm working on? So my kids are in school, so I'm not going to release anything in September, because September is, getting everybody back to school, and it's crazy busy, and I don't want to do that to myself.
Right.
I won't release something in December. Same thing. Too much going on. School activities, family activities, too much. The same with June, end of the year stuff. My God, the amount of things at the end of the year that kids have to do. So if I already know that those months are out, I can then look at, okay, well, what's left, right? And so you sort of figure out what are appropriate months that you think you could physically do, and then figure out from there, okay, so if I can release in May, what do I need to do now to lead up to being ready to release in May? So if I know that my editor needs 3 months notice, I will mark that off 3 months prior to that release. If I know my cover designer needs 4 months, I will go back 4 months from that release, and I will mark that down. If I know it takes me about 3 months to write this draft, 2 months to write this draft, I will map it out to see if I can realistically reach that particular goal. And if I can on paper, then I can probably do it in practice, right? So
Right.
it's that starting with your release month that you think that you can pull it off, and just really working backwards to see if you can pull it off. If you can't, you pick another month and you start over. So it's a little tedious, but I think if you plan it out that way, you can plan multiple release dates that way by just working backwards. It is a time process. It is a time crunch, but you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what I touched on before was setting realistic goals for yourself too.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I had a prolific year during the first year of COVID. I wrote 9 long novellas. I mean, we're talking between 40 and 50,000 words a piece, 9 of them. Because there was nothing else to do. I mean, how much television can you watch? You know
Right.
what I mean? I mean, I did take breaks, and yeah, me too. I'm a binger. I'm a binger. You know, I traded binge eating for binge watching.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
I think we all did.
so anyway, but you know, it was funny because then 2021 happened, and I only put out, I think, 2 books this year. 2 books this past year. I mean, I did rebrand, and I did you know, recover a lot of things and whatnot, but it wasn't like the year before, and it reflected in my sales that I didn't do what I needed to do, and I can't look at it that way. I can't look at it, oh my God, it was a failure year. I can't, because there was growth in the year. So anytime
it's a building year.
Anytime that there's growth, anytime that there's things that you can learn, you know, that you can use as a jumping off platform for the following year. That's what I do. And I know people who plan out for, you know, 1, 2, 3 years in advance. And of course, the stuff that's 2 or 3 years in advance, they put on, you know, it's kind of written in pencil because, you know, life changes. That, you know,
all of my plans are written in pencil because life. I don't put anything in ink.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I learned this year is, you know, like I said, I want to write 6 books. And then you're talking about things that, you know, you have to do, and you have to get out. And you mentioned the word May, and my brain just went, it went like that, because I actually have a commitment that has to be done by the third week in May, which is writing in Robin Peterman's Magic and Mayhem World again. I had completely forgotten that I had said, oh yeah, I'll do that, you know, because that's usually.
Do you not have a planner?
No, I don't. And I need to get a planner. I know. I need a planner. I do.
You do.
Either that or I need a secretary.
Age, Marianne, that we are not expected to be able to hold on to those things anymore. We have to write it down either on a paper planner or a digital one, because we're going to forget it. We are gonna forget it. Put a Post-it note right now.
These are already written. I have them all over.
But okay, but there it is. So you've got all these scattered things, but unless you happen to look at that one that says May at the right time, you're in that same scramble situation. A planner would help you organize the chaos. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, the scramble is the kissing cousin to hostage deadline, because that's what happened last year for me. It's I knew I wanted to put out Jeepers Reapers in June, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, I promised Robin, you know, and it's like, then I had to hurry up and write a book. And, you know, that was writing 2 books at once. And you're writing one that's kind of like a cozy mystery / you know, fun, witchy kind of haha book, and then the other one is a paranormal women's fiction where the main character, you know, the heroine is, you know, 40 plus, you know, so it's, and the other one is like where she's in her late 20s, so it's like completely in separate rooms in your head, you know. And that's
a question that I was going to have for you, is like, if you're writing specifically in 2 sort of different genres, different worlds, maybe not different genres, but different situations like you did,
right.
How do you keep that straight in your mind? Like, how do you keep the story details straight of one book to another? Do you write stuff down, or do you just?
No, I do. I have, and they're not up on my wall yet, because, you know, we just moved, and you know, my office is, I want to say, about 70% put together. It's not 100% put together. And I have a cork board, and I have a dry erase, a very, very large dry erase board. And I use that to put down my book details, and the Post-it notes usually go in the cork board, you know, so there is some kind of organization. It's not like yours, but it's some kind of organization. Anyway, but the way I do it is I do not write the same book in the same day. I
Gotcha.
split the calendar up where if it's, say for argument's sake, today is Monday.
Mhm.
Today I will write book A. Tomorrow I will write book B, and I will split it on and off, and I give myself a daily word count that I must hit. And if I don't hit, it doesn't like it goes, oh, that's okay. No. That word count that you didn't met gets added to the next one, kind of like interest on a bank. If you don't pay, if you don't pay off
Right.
the credit card all,
Yeah.
completely. So
Yeah.
that's exactly how I do it. Is I have X amount of hours in a day. And that's when it gets to the end where it's like, oh my God, I have to write for 14 hours in straight, and I've got my arm, hooked up to an IV of caffeine because I have to get it done. And, we discussed in our group critique partnering at one point. And I think this is where it would come in handy, is to have an author buddy to be able to read your stuff, because when you're writing 2 books at once, even if you're doing on off like me,
Sure.
your brain, there is some bleed through.
Yeah.
And and you need a clean set of eyes, because your eyes are goggled by this point.
Yeah. I find that's particularly tricky for me if I've written one book in third person and the other in first.
Oh my God.
That's when I get muddied the most. I'm like, why did you do this to yourself, woman? Stop it. But no, I sometimes will in the same day, because I don't do a word count goal, because that stresses me out. I will do a chapter goal a day. So it'll be whatever the chapter goal is. And again, if that doesn't get done, yes, it gets moved over. But I also will plan in like a day or two in each month as like catch up if I completely get overwhelmed, so that I know that I've got a buffer to catch up on that chapter that I didn't get done. And if there's nothing that day, I have a day off, so it's a built-in day off. But the only time that I'll work on 2 projects in the same time is if, say, I'm writing the first draft of something. I know that first draft is going to take me a lot of time. That's going to take probably the bulk of my day. But a 4th draft of another book, I'm just looking for like typos, formatting issues. I'm not changing the plot significantly there. I'm looking for just doing a quick scan, so I can do that much quicker. And I can flip to that brain quick enough, because I know that don't mess with the details at this point.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that.
But usually, it's one project a day, for sure. Yeah.
You can't. I mean, I can't say you can't, because I'm sure there are some prolific minds who can compartmentalize down to the small minutia where they can do that. But I can't. My characters in my head are greedy and selfish. They're toddlers. They're running around going, me, pay attention to me, and I need to put them in timeout when I'm writing the other one, or put them all in a room with a nanny. Say, okay, you can talk to her, So
so in a 7-day week, I could have 2 books that I'm probably working on. So 3 days a week I'll work on something, and then 2 days a week I'll work on something else. One day I'll take off. Yeah. And then one day I dedicate to just marketing stuff that I don't write.
That is something that I haven't done. When I'm writing 2 books, especially when it's like, my muse is standing behind me with a gun at my head because I have a hostage deadline. Okay. Yeah. It's marketing goes to shit.
Yeah.
Because I physically don't have the time. So this is where planning in 2022 would probably be beneficial to me, to be able to plan out. Okay,
you and I are going to have a little sit down.
Oh God, she's planning a friend-intervention.
Plan out your year, and
an intervention,
and you're going to have a great time, and you're going to feel so relieved that you've got a plan.
I think we should do it in like a writer's retreat weekend. We can. It's funny. I just heard for the first time, and I've known you for over a year now. And you and I have been talking weekly. I heard your Maine accent.
Oh, really?
For the very first time. I mean, it's not very strong, but all of a sudden it's there because I watch Maine Cabin Masters. So, and I heard it. I don't know how. I don't know how
it's wicked good up here.
I don't know how strong my New York accent is, but
strong.
Is it? I know it gets stronger when I'm talking to people, that are from New York, but anyway, but so
well, here's another piece to what we touched on this a little bit, but if you don't mind, I'd love to tap into it a little bit. You talked a little bit about resolutions. I'm not a big fan of resolutions either. I think you're just setting yourself up for failure. Honestly, I feel like I'm just going to let myself down. So I don't bother to do that. But something that I am sort of trying to focus and get better at is trying to create sort of 3 business goals, not resolutions, but goals, things that I want this upcoming year to sort of achieve for me. And one of those, happens to be, I want to release X amount of books, right? So if that's one of my goals, then it's on me to try to figure out how am I going to reach that goal. And if I fail, it's because I didn't plan enough for that. I didn't figure out how to make that. That was an unrealistic goal because I knew that I wasn't going to I would like to. No, what can you realistically do?
Realistic is the operative word.
I'm going to make $1 million. That's not really a business plan.
No.
You could say, I would like to increase my income by 25% this year, or I would like to, increase my newsletter subscribers by X amount, and that's real measurable stuff that you can look at the data on January 1, and then look at the data at the end of the year and go, did I meet my goal?
Right.
And then you can assess, were those realistic goals? Did you meet them? And if you did, can you kick them up for next year? So I'm curious, do you have business goals? Are you planning to do business goals this year? I know it's only the 3rd of the month here, so.
Yes. First of all, my income dropped by half because of not being able to really do much in terms of marketing or whatever. I mean, I took classes and so forth, but because of just being pulled in 7 different directions, I signed up for the classes, I watched them, but did I retain anything? Not really. And this is where I have to say, huge kisses out to, like Alessandra Torre and, and the author conference done Clubhouse and so forth for all of the, Inkers Con and also some of the classes that she took, and also 20 books to 50K Vegas, they had this stuff on video so that I could go back when I had the time and I had the brain space to be able to watch and retain.
Part of what I do on Tuesdays is go through classes like that.
Because it's one thing to sign up for something and then it's quite another to just miss it completely. You know what I mean? And
you can have really good intentions of like, I really want to learn how to do XYZ, but then when it comes down to, I don't have the time to learn this.
Well, this goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about is your business goals. You could say, I want to increase my revenue. My return on investment. I want to increase my following. My newsletter subscribers, the people who follow me on TikTok and on Facebook and on Instagram and so forth. And so that, that you have a way to reach your readers so that would then correlate into more sales, and whatnot. But the question is how do you do that? And this is where these classes and these events were very, very important, that I started to beat myself up a little bit, that I was not able to, I had, the road to hell paved by good intentions, and I, wanted to do it and I signed up for them and then just didn't have the time or the capacity to be able to do what I needed to do. So one of my goals this year, in order to be able to get to where I want to increase my revenue back to where it was, and then maybe then some. I mean, this year, I think it's really just getting it back to where it was. And then after that, increasing it maybe in 2023, but part of that is going back and really getting notebooks so I can take notes on every single one of these videos that I have in my back pocket to be able to do, and actually sitting down and doing, just saying, oh, I'll get to it. No, because you know what ends up happening? I get to it. Then they're not available anymore because they've been up for 6 months or a year. Right. And then, although Alessandra Torre makes them available for 3 years.
Information is invalid,
yes,
things
because
have changed.
The
market has shifted.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing about marketing is you got to sort of stay on top of it. You got to keep sort of learning, which was part of the reason why I decided it was okay for me to sacrifice a writing day to focus on marketing day.
Yes.
So marketing day, it's not just, oh, I'm going to be putting up Facebook ads, or, oh, I'm going to be making graphics. It's also
learning.
It's time for
learning day.
It's picking up that craft book that I've been meaning to write, or it's going back and looking at those videos, or going back and looking at those notes. And I've only been doing it for a few months now, but it's really helped calm me. Like, I felt so much anxiety about, like, I am missing stuff. I'm not where I need to be.
Scattered. I was scattered, and I still am scattered
And
because
so
same
for me,
reason.
it's a priority for me now that I take that one day, and that it's okay that I do not write today, that this is also a priority.
Yes.
And so, and for some people, it might not need to be a full day. It might just need to be, you know what, for an hour a day, I'm going to focus on answering emails, or, you know, answering Facebook messages, or whatever it is that you need to do to sort of take some of that pressure, whatever's mounting on you that you don't feel like you have enough time for. If you micromanage it and put it in small chunks, you'll chip away at things. It's
Yep. And you'd be surprised that when you watch the videos, as opposed to being in a conference, and the speaker or whoever is teaching that one particular module is going at the speed of light, and you're trying to write stuff down at the same time. So that as you're writing it down, you're missing what they're saying. Going back and having the videos to be able to listen, stop it, replay it, you know, and then write stuff down, you retain so much more because you write it down. And this is something that I am going to make a priority for myself this year, that while I'm writing, I have to have one day for marketing, for, you know, for me to actually do ads and whatnot, and then one day to actually have for learning. So maybe 5 days, 5/6 days, because if I have ads that are running and I don't need to do anything except maybe take an hour to go and check the statistics to make sure that they're performing, then the rest of that day I could do for, you know, for learning, and then write the 6 days. So I've got 3 days on and 3 days off if I have to write 2 books at once.
And it's important to have time off, right? Because as writers, we're creative people, but we also need to refill that well of stories and inspiration. And if we're constantly sort of stuck in our bubble, how are we going to get new inspiration and new ideas? We've got to have time off. It's just like with a workout, right? You need days to have the muscles recover. Your brain sort of, I think, needs a little like, let me just veg and not have to think and problem solve this plot. Let me just rest. And then a lot of times on my rest day, I get a lot of good ideas that I have to like sort of hold and pin for another day, because I've let my mind wander a little bit. And so I think it's a good practice to get into, to at least give yourself one day off of that mental stress of writing, because it is a lot of stress to constantly be creative.
Well, I mean, the other thing that one of the other goals that I have in mind, besides, you know, increasing my revenue back to where it was, and making time to actually absorb the marketing that I paid for, you know, the learning, the you know, what do they call it, CPE credits that a lot of professionals have to do, continuing professional education credits, you know. The other thing that I want to do is to read, is to make time to read again. And a lot of authors are like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't have time. Well, reading for me is a gateway. It's a gateway to, I don't know, but maybe sharpen my imagination. It is. And it's not because you're absorbing other people's ideas or other people's storylines or
there are no new ideas. You know? I'm sorry, there aren't. There's only your version of a story.
Yeah, and it's not like you're going to absorb their pacing or how they craft a sentence or what have you.
What you might pick up is, why did this book hold my attention? What was it about this book that really sucked me in? Or what was it about it that lost me, so that I don't duplicate that? So you can absolutely learn from reading excellent books and mediocre books and not so good books. So you can learn like, oh, this is what the pacing of this book was on fire, and it just kept me turning the pages. I want to be able to do that in my next book, you know? So absolutely, I think you can do that. And that's actually one of the things that I want to do too, because I read, but I'm probably not the world's fastest reader in the world, because I read right before bed, and that's really a dumb idea, because then I
don't retain it.
I don't know. I just get tired. I read a couple pages. I'm like, okay, it's not bad. Don't read at night. So I've got to start, you know, reading during the day when I'm, you know, awake. So I want to, this in 2022, this is when everybody's doing their sort of Goodreads challenges of books they want to read. I want to read 12 books on craft. So I'm going to dedicate 1 month to a craft book year, and I want to try to read 12 novels in a year. And that's not a lot of books.
No,
but
it's doable.
It's more for it's a lot for me. So I want to sort of get more intentional about it.
Yeah, right? Me too. I mean, there was a time in my life before I started writing
Before
back in,
writing, I read a lot.
oh my God. I remember when it was like, I guess it must have been the early 2000s when the Harry Potter books,
Oh God, yeah.
really took off,
Yeah.
and with the first movie and so forth.
Yeah.
I remember I binge read the
Yeah.
entire series, and then was like online at Barnes and Noble at midnight as
Yeah.
each book came out,
Yeah.
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 And same thing with before brick and mortar bookstores went out of went the way of the dodo bird for the most part. I would walk in and I would just spend so much time just browsing. Other women would be looking at clothing and shoes, which I do too. I'm not, I do too. I'm a shoe maven, shoes and pocketbooks, because no matter how fat you get, those things never change. Anyway, but stop. I almost made
Gonna
you
make me spit out my tea.
Sorry. But I would go into bookstores, and I remember talking to the people who worked there saying, I really loved this one. Do you have anything else? And that was how I got turned on to Christine Feehan and Cara Marie Moaning and so
Those
forth.
bookstore workers know what they're doing.
And
right?
I would buy 4 or 5 books at a time. I'd buy the entire series in paperback, and then go home and read them, and then have to be back like in a week and a half or 2 weeks later, to get more, and it was like, it was my hobby. It was what I did. And then when I started writing, I was still reading, but then as time got on and life took over, I stopped reading as much. And that's how I mean, not that I want to sit there and read for 4 days solid where I don't move off the couch, but I want to.
We have a lovely, I live in a small coastal town in Maine, and we have a lovely little bookstore that every time I go in, I'm like, I'm going to live here, but I don't go nearly enough. So now this is sort of like I have a monthly goal. Like I've got to, I want to go in and I want to pick a book, and I want to, that's something that I want to do. So that's sort of my challenge to myself that we'll see if I can pull off.
To tell you the truth, one of the things that I would love to do is I would love to, and because I live in a small little town now, that we've moved, and it's got a gorgeous little downtown village, with a main, with a village green and so forth. And where I looked at my daughter the other day and I said, oh my God, a tea shop, like a little tea house, where they serve like, little sandwiches and so forth. You could combine that with like a bookstore. I would be, there would be a place for people to come in and read, and just a calming place. And everybody's like, oh my God, that's Barnes and Noble. No, it's not fucking Barnes and Noble. I'm sorry, it's not. Barnes and Noble, you have to, it has a Starbucks. It doesn't have its own little, tea
something
thing.
Smaller. You want something smaller,
something more intimate, more with a personality. And anyway, so that would be my ultimate goal, is to be the writer in residence in a place like that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Why not? Why not? Make that happen.
Host book signings for all my friends. Make
it happen. Make it a goal. Maybe not for next year, but maybe the year after. Once you've gone in there and you've established who you are, maybe that's a goal for next year.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so goals, writing resolutions.
Yep.
I think we've and writing more books and more than one book at once, because I know I'm in that boat starting today. Today.
It's a good time of year to start planning for it. If this is what you want to do, this is the time to plan for it. And if you plan for it, you'll save your sanity, I think.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, I think that about does it for us today. Be sure to join us next week as we talk more about books and the things that we love about them in Bound by Books. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.